Kurt in Idaho Falls, Idaho. Kurt, it says here you are a gun owner and hardcore Republican. What's up?
Hi, how are you, Tom?
I am great, but I'll get better. How about you, Kurt?
Okay, I know this is sort of sacrilege for a Republican to call you, and I'm sure I will fall into the category as evil and bad, as all Republicans are in your eyes.
No, I love hearing from Republicans. My father lived and died a Republican.
It's good fodder for you to run us down. But what I wanted to talk about was not that. I want to talk about this background checks on buying firearms.
Right.
Now, first of all, if you knew how many guns I had, you would, denounce me before the People's Revolutionary Tribunal, I'm sure. But the point is, I agree with the background check, and I think there should be done. But my real question is, I don't know if you've been to a doctor lately, but every time you go to a doctor, the first thing they have you sign, fill out that little form,
the HIPAA form.
Condition. And then they put in there about their protection of privacy.
Right.
Now, if a doctor sees somebody who he thinks might be dangerous to himself or others, preferably others, I don't care if a guy's dangerous to himself that much, how are we going to be able to get that related to the law enforcement to deny him the purchase of a firearm?
Right.
This is my question. I mean, these lawyers who are willing to take the gun companies to law to sue them will stand right there and sue the doctor who reports the guy.
Yeah. So, I don't disagree with you, Kurt, and that's why my proposal is that we treat guns the way we treat cars. And it's pretty simple and straightforward. You have a right to own a car, but rights are always circumscribed by responsibilities. And first of all, I think everybody who owns a gun, and I don't own any guns, but whenever I go back to Michigan, one of my brothers owns a lot of guns, a number of guns, and has a shooting range in his backyard. And he and his wife and my wife and I, that's what we do. We'll spend a whole day just target practice, in Steve's backyard. It's great fun, frankly. And I know that he doesn't disagree with me on this, that if you're going to own a gun, whether it's for target shooting, whether it's for hunting, whether it's for personal protection, if you're going to own a gun, you have to have a license. Just like if you're going to drive a car, you have to have a license. And part of getting that license is proving that you know how to use the gun and you know how to use it safely. Now, that could take 10 minutes on a gun range with an instructor, but you have to do that. Just like, if you think back to when you got your first driver's license, you had to sit in the car with a driving license inspector and demonstrate that you know how to drive the car. I doubt that several of these shooters, in particular the one in Oregon and the one in Sandy Hook, could have successfully convinced a rational human being gun inspector, or gun license issuer, that they weren't crazy. So there's your first place. That's your first point of filtration, as it were. That's the first place where you catch people who are too crazy to own guns. Is they have to sit down with a human being before they get a license. The second is that, like with cars, every gun owner should have liability insurance. Now, liability insurance, just like with your car, that's the cheapest part of the car insurance, right? The liability insurance part of your car is typically $20, $30 a month. It's the replace the car if you get in an accident stuff that gets real expensive. Because, liability isn't the thing that typically is the claim against insurance companies. And I think it's crazy that the kids who are the people who were killed in Roseburg, Oregon, or the people who were killed in Sandy Hook got not one penny as a consequence of that. But if the exact same killers had killed them as drunk drivers or even as sober, malicious drivers and simply run them over with a car, Geico would be writing checks for $1 million to every single one of those families, because there was liability insurance. And the other advantage of liability insurance is that the liability insurers, they have actuaries who look at your record because they've got money at stake, right? This isn't some giant government bureaucracy. This is actually a so-called free market solution, which I would think that conservatives and Republicans would love. The insurance companies will look at you and say, this guy's got 4 domestic violence convictions. Maybe we should charge him more than $30 a month for liability insurance. Let's charge him $3,000 a month. And suddenly the guy can't afford to have a gun anymore. One less dead wife, right? And so that, and then number 3, of course, you register it from the time of manufacture to destruction, just like with cars. If we did those 3 simple things with guns and gun owners, I think those are sane, reasonable regulations that fall within the purview of the Second Amendment, which has the word regulation in it. and they would diminish gun violence. What do you think, Kurt?
I think, well, I agree with you. I agree with you on that there. You know, like I said, I am constantly telling people around here, I have a lot, like I said, I own over 300 firearms.
Whoa!
Okay.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, all kinds.
Yeah, so you're a collector. You're not just
a serious
yeah, you're a serious collector.
But I shoot all of them. Every one of them shoots. Even some of my matchlocks, which were made, hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
To the Class 3 fully automatic weapons, which I also own. It's legal here in Idaho for you to own. After you go to the Federal National Firearm Act, registration, which is really not that hard to do. What I'm getting at is that I'm constantly telling guys, look, you got these guns. How are you keeping them? How are you storing them?
Exactly.
And I'm surprised how many of these guys, they're being slipped underneath the bed in a gun case,
or in the drawer next to their bed. And that's the thing. If you had liability insurance, the liability insurance company, just like with your car, if you get busted a couple times for not wearing seatbelts, your car insurance is going to go up. And similarly, the insurance company could say, do you have a gun safe? Do you use gun locks? If you say no, then you pay a higher rate. If you say yes, and later on it's determined that you used a gun that wasn't, or some kid found a gun in your house and killed somebody with it, and the liability policy is invoked, you may end up with the liability rather than the insurance company because you lied to the insurance company. What do you think, Kurt? Back to the free market.
I mean, like I say, but here's the only problem I have with it is, until both sides can sit down, I have a distinct attitude with the, it's like, the guys who have guns, they want to be able to buy anything and not have to do anything to protect it or anything like that.
Right.
And the people who want to regulate guns really just want to outlaw everything.
No, I don't think so, Kurt. I don't know. I mean, I literally don't know anybody. Now, hang on just a second, Kurt. This is the God's honest truth, and I'm a flaming liberal, democratic socialist, whatever whatever you want to call me. Okay, and I know a lot of those kind of folks. On the opposite side from you. I have never, ever in my life heard anybody that I know or that I take seriously. And frankly, I can't think of any single politician who's saying, let's just ban all guns. I don't know anybody who's saying that. Can you name one person?
I can't think. Okay, as far as, I can tell you a bunch of people, but my mother is for one of them.
Okay, well, she's not a legislator then, thank God.
No, but she was a delegate of the Democratic Party. So,
okay. What can I say?
So, she... I mean, we try to keep mom's affiliations quiet. My dad and I. we tell why couldn't she have a nice, respectable job like running a brothel or something?
Right. Instead, she has to be a Democrat.
Yeah, right. But anyway, getting back to it, I mean, like I say, I've really enjoyed listening to your show. I've listened to you a lot now, and I have to add one more little thing. The girl said I shouldn't bring up, but I'm starting to really look at Bernie a lot more seriously than I ever thought I ever would in my whole life.
Yeah, I think Bernie's a serious candidate.
Well, the deal is, I think something has to change. Mm-hmm. We can't keep going with the same. I mean, Hillary's she's got her hands in how many people's pockets. Yeah. And the other Republicans, they're bought and paid for it. So my attitude is, maybe this is the guy who can actually upset the apple cart enough,
Well, that's what 20% of the Republicans in Vermont consistently say when they vote for Bernie every 2 years, or now it's every 6 years now that he's a senator. But, for 18 years, every 2 years he stood for election. And he typically pulls about 20% of the Republican vote in that state, in addition to most of the Democrats.
I used to live in Alaska for a long time, and I was in Alaska when Sarah Palin was governor.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something, I was working for oil companies there, and the Cheyenne Indians say you could tell the quality of a people by who their enemies are. Mm-hmm. The oil companies hated her guts.
Oh, because she was...
Tell you why, because she stood up to those guys. That old boy network had been going up there for years.
Yeah, you're right. She did, and she strengthened the Alaska Permanent Fund, and she made sure that more money was distributed to the people. It was taken away from the oil companies as drilling fees, and basically a tax on every barrel of oil that's extracted and put into the Alaska Permanent Fund. And then the year that she ran for vice president, just her family, this is how much money was being passed out in Alaska. Just her family got almost $40,000 from the state because it was like $2,800 that year per person. Plus, she got another $2,000 bonus of some kind jacked in there, and she had 7 people in her family. So they pulled down almost $40,000. It's like a statewide permanent or guaranteed minimum income. That's even beyond socialism, Kurt. I mean That's something even socialists don't propose. That's how far to the left Sarah Palin was. But yeah, I get it. Kurt, thanks a lot for the call. It's nice having a reasonable conversation with a fair-minded Republican. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching.